Observe this, there are two concepts. One is data members, or it stands for data, and second one is member functions, or the functions which operate on these data. What you have seen the definition in the previous slide, definition of a class. So class A is a group of objects of similar behavior and characteristics. So what is dynamic binding here? It is nothing but connecting or linking two different programs for different applications. Dear students, welcome to Computer Science Revision classes. I am Ravi Kumar KR, lecturer in Computer Science, Vidhyaashram PU College, Temple of Excellence, Mysuru. Students, let us start our revision class with the chapter Basic Concepts of OOPS, that is chapter 6. So, the weightage of the chapter is 7 marks, and here one 5 marks question, and here we'll have one 2 mark question. So, total weightage of the chapter is 7 marks. Now, here let us start with the introduction part of it. So, here first one is object-oriented programming. So, the chapter is Introduction to OOPS Concepts. OOP stands for Object-Oriented Programming. So, it is another method of programming concept. So, here it uses modular approach. So, object-oriented programming, it uses modular approach. And here it provides an advantages in creation and development of software for real-life application. And the advantage is that the small modules of program, it can be developed in short span of time, and these modules can be shared by number of applications. So once a module has been developed, because it's a modular approach, same module can be utilized or can be used in some other program also, or it is a concept of reusability of the code. So this is object-oriented programming. Now the basic element of OOPS is the data. So here the program is built by combining data and functions that operate on this data. So here in OOPS concept, we are concentrating on data as the first preference. So in this OOPS concept, the first preference will be given to the data, then the procedures. So here accordingly, so here data and the functions or member functions which operate on those data are combined in one unit. So that is the concept of OOPS concept. And again, the object-oriented programming method use data as the main element in the program, as I told you just now. So here in this concept, in this programming method, first preference will be given to the data, then preference will be given to the procedure. So this is the introduction of OOPS concept or object-oriented programming. Now let us see what are all the characteristics of OOPS concept. So here these are the different characteristics of OOPS concept. So one is objects, classes, data abstraction and data encapsulation, inheritance, overloading, polymorphism, dynamic binding and message passing. So all these are the different characteristics of OOPS concept, and these characteristics can be implemented through programming concepts. So here let us discuss the definition of these things one by one. So here first let us start with what is an object. The first definition is what is an object. So object is an identifiable entity with some characteristics and behavior. So this is a definition of object. It is an entity with some characteristics and behavior. Example, person. Or we can take an example like a student. Student is an example for an object. Similarly, place or table of data. All these are examples for an object. And here it is, what is an object? It is a collection of data members and associated member functions. Observe this, there are two concepts. One is data members, or it stands for data, and second one is member functions, or the functions which operate on these data. And here each object is identified by a unique name. So we have to identify each object by only one name. and every object must be a member of particular class. So it is one more concept here is the next definition, that is a class. So what is an object now? Object is an entity with some characteristics and behavior. An example may be a person, table, place, anything we can take, because in object-oriented programming, we are connecting our program to a real-world objects or entity. So, and here, this data, there are two things here. One is data members as well as member function, and each object is identified by a unique name. So, next, all these objects are a member of a particular class. Now, look at the example now. Apple, orange, mangoes are objects. So here we can say apple is a fruit. It's an example for an object. And similar, orange, mango. All these we can give example, and all these belongs to a class called fruit. So that's the definition of a class. So object is the one thing here. For example, orange is an object, or mango is an object, and all these comes under a category or a group of fruits. So fruit is a class. So that is the definition of object and a class. In the next slide, see, this is how we represent an object here. As I told you just now, this object here we are combining data member, a member data, and a member functions which works on this data together form an object. So here this is a unique name. So the name given to an object, it is called an object name. In this example, we have given student is an object, and it consists of the characteristics here, data members, name, registration number, and course. These we can relate to characteristics of an object. And here member functions, this is called member functions. Get data and display are called functions. These are called as member functions. Together is forms one object. So it is identified by a single or unique name. That is, in this example, student is an object here. This is one object. Similarly, this is another object. You can, if you consider this, teacher is name of an object. Again, it has its own characteristics. These are data members which are connecting to characteristics of an object, and these are the members or functions or member functions associated or which works on these data members. So this is how we represent an object in OOPS concepts. Next definition is a class. So what is a class? I think we have seen the definition in the slide, first slide. So it is a template that represents a group of objects which share common properties and relationship. So here this is important here. Now in the first slide we have seen the name of the fruits like mango, orange and apple are coming under a group called a fruits. It is called as a class. So similarly, so here all the objects must have a common properties and behavior or relationship. And a class is a way of grouping objects having similar characteristics. Once a class is defined, any number of objects of that class is created. So here next concept is object. So first we have to create a class. So once the class has been created, so n number of objects can be created of that particular class. That is the meaning of the sentence here. Now for example, planets, sun, moon are members of a solar system. So here if we consider solar system is a class, under that we have planet, different planets or data members or members of the class solar system. Now classes are user-defined data type, and a class can hold both data and functions. So it is classes. Now we know what is a class. It is a group of objects of similar behavior, and a class can hold both data and functions. I mean data members or member functions. And another example for a class is I can say students of one particular class. For example, if I say second PUC computer science student, it is a class. Under that we have number of 40 to 50 students, and all together is called as one class. So here all students, each and every individual student represent one object. So group of objects together, if there are 50 students, so there are 50 students or 50 objects, and all together we are naming as a second PUC CS student. That is the name of a class. So that is another example for a class. So next slide, we will see next definition is data abstraction. Another characteristics of OOPS. So what is abstraction? The abstraction refers to the representation of essential features of an object and hiding or without including the background details of explanation of it. So another property or another features of OOPS concept is data abstraction. So what is abstraction here? So only the showing the essential features of an object and hiding unnecessary details. Now let us move on to next slide. Now next definition is data encapsulation. So what is data encapsulation? It combines data and functions into a single unit called class. So what you have seen the definition in the previous slide, definition of a class. So class A is a group of objects of similar behavior and characteristics. So here class A is an example for encapsulation. So here it will prevent direct access to a data. So what is the meaning of this? So it is sort of security. So classes may contain the data members as well as member function. So with the help of with the concept of encapsulation, it prevents the data from external access of the external users to use the same data. So it is sort of security. Now a data can be accessed only through methods or function present inside the class. So we can access the data members of a class through the member functions or a function declared or defined inside the class. So data encapsulation enables data hiding or information hiding. So it is nothing but a sort of protection to our data. So this is how we represent an encapsulation or nothing but a class here. So this is the data and this is the methods associated with the data or which operates on this data. So this is called data encapsulation. Now next definition is data inheritance. Now all of you know the word, may be familiar with the word inheritance. It is resemblance. So somebody we say that you are like or look like your brother, sister and so on. So that is biological inheritance. Now with respect to programming concept, it is data inheritance. Now it is the capability of a class to inherit the properties of another class. So what is inheritance? Again it is capability of a class to inherit the properties of another class or to acquire the properties of another class. That is the concept of data inheritance. Now here the class that inherits the properties from another is called derived class or subclass or child class. And here there are two levels of classes. One method is called derived class or subclass or child class. So this is a class which acquires the properties from the parent class, or we can say and it inherits the properties from another class is called a child class, subclass or derived class. Now the class that provides its properties to subclass is called base class or parent class. So here another type of class is a base class or parent class, means which provides its properties to other classes are called base class or parent class. Now in OOPS, the concept of inheritance provides the idea of reusability. This advantage of OOPS concept is inheritance. It provides the reusability of the code. Now we can look at the example here. So this is superclass or a parent class, and these are the parent child class or subclass because these two classes are derived from this base class. So this is data inheritance. Next definition is polymorphism. So data polymorphism. So what is data polymorphism? So it is a feature of an object or programming where a function can take multiple forms based on the type of arguments, number of arguments and data type of return value. So the one definition. So another definition is it is ability of an operator and function take multiple forms is known as polymorphism. So it is, we can say in general, it is behavior of an object depending on the circumstances or situation. Polymorphism is, you can take an example, keyboard. You see, if you look at the keyboard, there are a number of keys on the keyboard, and one key has two functions. So that is an example for polymorphism. So by holding the shift key, we will get one letter, and by releasing it and without shift key, we will get one more character on the monitor. So here, same key, it works with two different functions or operations. This is an example for data polymorphism. And again, so this is a definition with respect to functions. So here, what is polymorphism? Here I'm talking about functions or member methods. So each member function, we can have n number of functions in the classes. So we can have the function name, same name of a function with difference in their argument list or parameter list. That is what we call as function overloading. That is nothing but polymorphism. And again, not only for function, it's also possible to have operator. So we can also have operator overloading or function overloading. It's an example for polymorphism. Next definition is dynamic binding. So what is dynamic binding? It is the process of connecting one program to another program. So it means linking of procedure call to the code to be executed in response to the call. Or we can say another definition, it means code associated with a procedure call is known only at the time of program execution routine. So what is dynamic binding here? It is nothing but connecting or linking two different programs for different applications. So this is nothing but dynamic binding. Here, procedure is nothing but another method of programming is called procedural programming. Procedure is nothing but, it is again a group of functions and a group of statements which does one specific work or specific task. So we are connecting different procedures and we are invoking it with procedure call. So this is the concept of dynamic binding. In general, it is connecting one program to another program. Next one is message passing. So what is message passing? So here, processing is done by sending message to the object. Now we know that what are object is a group of object is an entity with similar behavior and characteristics. If we talk about a class, it's a group of objects. So there are it can have n number of objects of a particular class. And how do the objects communicate among themselves? That is nothing but message passing. So if at all any things to be carried out, to be done, so we have to pass the message to a concerned object, to the right object to get the things done or to execute a certain function. That is the concept of message passing. So in general, in other words, we can say it is communication between two different objects. Now in this here, a message for an object is request for execution of procedure. So in technically we can say that if we want to execute a task or we have to, suppose if we want to execute or invoke a function, so we have to send a message to a particular object, that is message passing. And a request will involve a procedure or a function and in the receiving object that generates desired results. And message passing involves specifying the name of the object, name of the function and information to be sent. So these are the things necessary for message passing. So if you want to communicate with another object or if you want any instruction to be passed to another object, it has to go in this format. So this is message passing, communication between two objects. Now let us see what are all advantages of OOPS concept or object-oriented programming over other programming methods. So here one is the programs are modelized based on the principle of classes and object. So this is the feature of OOPS concept, what you have learned at the beginning, classes and object. So through that, we are going to modelize the thing or the task. Then linking code and object allows the related object to share common coding. So it is nothing but reusability of the code. That is another advantage of OOPS concept. Next one is data is encapsulated with the functions, so the external non-member function cannot access or modify the data, providing data security. So the another advantage is that data security, data reusability or instruction code reusability, and providing modularity. So these are the different applications of OOPS concepts. Next, fourth point is easier to develop complex software because complexity can minimize through inheritance. So it is useful for developing complex as well as general application software. Next one is data abstraction. It provides separate object specification and object implementation. So data abstraction is another advantage of OOPS concepts. Next one is creation and implementation of OOP code is easy and reduces software development time. So these are all the different advantages of OOPS concept over earlier method of programming. Now let us see what are all the limitations of OOPS concepts. Now first one is, so OOPS software is not having set of standard. So this is one of the drawback. Next one is adaptability of flow diagrams and object programming using class and object is complex process. Now we have learned in the previous year about how to solve a problem over computer or problem solving methodology. According to that, so first we are writing the flowchart or algorithm and pseudocode. Then we are converting those into programming, that is called coding. So the method of converting algorithm or flowchart or pseudocode into program is a tedious job or a complex process. This is another limitation. Next one is convert real world problem into object program is difficult. So generally, in general, we can say with the help of OOP concept, we are connecting real world object into programming. So, but it is very difficult to implement this concept. Next one is the classes are overly generalized. So we assume that classes are generalized, but in generally it is overly generalized, so it has its own limitation. So these are the limitations of OOPS concepts. Next one is what are all the applications of OOPS concepts. Applications. First one is computer graphic applications, and we are using this concept for computer graphics, and CAD/CAM software. This is for in the field of mechanical designing. Next one is object-oriented database. Next, user interface design such as Windows. See, this is interface or operating system. Real-time system. So we are using this of OOPS concept to write a program for real-time applications. Next, simulations and modeling, and artificial intelligence and expert system. I mean, we can use this OOPS concept or based on this for different applications. So these are all different applications of OOPS concepts. Students, so far we have discussed about the OOPS concepts, its definition, characteristics, and also advantages, applications, and limitations. Now let us continue our discussion in my next session. Thank you so much.